I came home from the hospital to find the locks changed on my own front door. My daughter Melissa was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking the entrance like she owned the place. She looked me up and down and said, "Dad, we've made some decisions while you were gone. This arrangement is better for everyone now." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked her dead in the eyes, nodded once, and thought to myself, she has absolutely no idea what kind of man she just crossed. My name is Earl Dunbar. I'm 67 years old. I've lived in the same house in Millbrook, Ohio for 41 years. I built most of it with my own two hands. Spent 35 years as a carpenter, turning raw lumber into something worth keeping. Cabinets, staircases, porches, furniture. My wife, June, used to say I could make a plain piece of pine sing if I talked to it long enough. June passed 3 years ago, breast cancer. It moved fast, 8 months from the first diagnosis to the end. After she was gone, the house got very quiet and very big. Her reading glasses stayed on the nightstand. Her garden gloves hung on the hook by the back door. I couldn't bring myself to move any of it. This house wasn't just wood and nails to me. It was every single year June and I built together. Melissa is my only child. I raised her alone after her mother walked out when Melissa was 9 years old. Just the two of us for most of her childhood. I worked double shifts some weeks to keep the lights on and food on the table. I didn't miss her school plays or her soccer games. I showed up, always. She was everything to me. She married Clint Garland about 10 years ago. I never warmed to Clint much, if I'm being honest. Something about the way he talked over people, always steering conversations back to himself. But Melissa loved him, and that was enough for me to keep my opinions to myself. You don't get a vote on who your kids fall for. About 18 months ago, Clint lost his job at the manufacturing plant. Layoffs, they said. Melissa called me in tears, told me they were 3 months behind on rent and running out of options. She asked if they could stay with me, just temporarily, just until Clint found something new. What was I supposed to say? She's my daughter? The little girl I used to carry on my shoulders at the county fair, so I said yes. I cleaned out the guest room, bought new sheets, and told myself it would be good to have some company again after 2 years of rattling around this house alone. The first few weeks were fine. Melissa helped around the kitchen. We sat on the porch some evenings and talked about June, about old memories. Clint kept mostly to himself, always on his phone, always looking into opportunities. I didn't push. A man's got his pride when he's down on his luck, and I understood that. But then things started to shift, small things at first. Clint rearranged the living room one afternoon without saying a word to me, said the old layout was inefficient. Then he started complaining about the thermostat, the water pressure, the way I kept the garage. One morning I came downstairs to find June's china cabinet had been moved to the basement. When I asked Melissa about it, she shrugged and said Clint thought it was taking up too much space. That cabinet was a wedding gift from June's mother. It held 40 years of memory. I swallowed it and told myself they were under stress. I told myself things would settle once Clint found work. He never did. Months passed and every job somehow didn't work out. Too far, not enough pay beneath his skill set. Always an excuse. Meanwhile, I watched him sit on my couch playing games on his phone and ordering food on my dime. Then I had the stroke. It was mild. What the doctors call a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. A warning shot, not the full thing, but it put me in the hospital for 9 days. The first couple of days, I was groggy from medication and not entirely with it. Melissa was there at my bedside, attentive and concerned. On day 3, she slid a document in front of me and explained it was a temporary care authorization, just so she could handle things at the house and deal with any bills while I recovered. She said it was standard. I was tired and I trusted her. I signed it. I should have read every word first. I know that now. When the cab pulled up to my house that Thursday afternoon, I felt something was wrong before I even opened the car door. The front porch light I'd installed the week we first moved in was gone, replaced with some sleek modern fixture that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby. My stomach tightened as I made my way up the front walk with my cane. Melissa opened the door before I reached the top step. She didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't offer a hand on the steps, just stood there with her arms folded and said, "Dad, we need to sit down and talk." I looked past her into the house. The walls were wrong, June's warm beige was gone, replaced with a cold flat gray. The family photos that had lined the hallway for decades had been taken down. "What happened to my house?" I asked. Melissa said they'd made some improvements while I was away. I pushed inside. The living room had been completely rearranged. June's antique rocking chair, the one she used to sit in every evening with a book, was gone. The handmade quilt her grandmother had stitched was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen had been reorganized top to bottom. My tools, my files, the folder where I kept insurance papers, and the deed to the house, All of it had been moved somewhere I didn't know. I made my way down the hall to my bedroom. When I opened the door, I stopped cold. It wasn't my bedroom anymore. The queen bed June and I had shared for decades was gone, replaced with a large king frame with a dark headboard I'd never seen before. The walls were painted navy blue. Clint's clothes hung in the closet. His watch and his wallet sat on the dresser where June's photo used to be. I stood there for a moment without speaking. Melissa appeared behind me. "We moved you to the back room, Dad. It's smaller but easier to manage. Closer to the bathroom. The back room, the storage room with no window facing June's garden. Where are my things?" I asked. "Where is the photo of your mother? We packed everything into boxes," she said. "They're in the garage. We'll go through them together when you're feeling stronger." I asked her again about the bedroom. She said it made more sense for them to have the larger space. "Better for their sleep," she said. "I was only one person." That's when Clint appeared in the doorway behind her. Arms folded. That same flat smile he always had when he thought a conversation was already settled. "Look, Earl," he said, "I know this is a lot to process, but honestly, this setup works better for everyone. You just need to accept that things are different now." I turned and looked at him, really looked, and I saw it clearly for the first time, the calculation behind his eyes, the certainty that he had already won. I saw the same thing in Melissa's face when she finally glanced up at me, not guilt, not apology, just a kind of impatience, like she was waiting for me to stop making this difficult. "You're right," I said quietly. "I need to rest." I went to the back room and closed the door behind me. The bed in there was a cheap twin mattress, probably bought secondhand. The sheets smelled like generic fabric softener, nothing like the lavender June always used. Through the wall, I could hear the TV in the living room, my living room, and Clint laughing at something. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark and I thought about every moment I had let slide, every warning I had explained away, every time I had told myself they were just stressed and things would settle down, and somewhere in that dark and quiet room, I stopped feeling hurt and started thinking clearly. The next morning, I made coffee the same as always and sat at the kitchen table. Clint came down around 10, still in his robe, barely looked at me. Melissa was already there, scrolling her phone. "Morning, Dad," she said without looking up. "There's oatmeal if you want some." I drank my coffee, and after a while I said casually that I needed to run an errand. Needed to stop by the bank to check on a few things. Clint looked up from his phone fast. "What things?" he asked. "Just routine," I said. "Making sure my accounts are in order after being away." He and Melissa exchanged a look. Quick, but I caught it. Melissa offered to drive me. Said I shouldn't be on my feet yet. I told her the fresh air would do me good. The look on Clint's face when I said that told me everything I needed to know. I drove myself to First National Bank. Every bump in the road sent a dull ache through me, but I didn't care. Patty Greer was at her window, a teller who had known me for years. Always asked after June before she passed. She pulled up my accounts without hesitation. What I saw on that printout made my hands go still. $24,000 gone, drained in small withdrawals and transfers over 16 months. Some moved to an account I didn't recognize. Some applied to credit cards that weren't mine. Cash taken out in amounts just under the reporting threshold, steady and patient, like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Patty told me a joint account holder had been added 14 months ago. She turned the screen toward me. The authorization form was right there. My signature at the bottom or something close to it. I looked at it for a long moment. I always sign my name the same way I always have, Earl J. Dunbar. The J is for Joseph, my father's name. The signature on that form read Earl P. Dunbar, one letter off. That was their mistake. I thanked Patty and drove home steadily, even though my hands weren't. $24,000, the money I had put aside over years, savings meant for emergencies, for my grandchildren one day, for whatever time I had left, gone. And the woman who took it was sitting in my kitchen at that very moment, eating food from my refrigerator, sleeping in the bedroom where June took her last breath. I walked through the front door and Clint was in the kitchen starting dinner. He smiled. "How was your errand, Earl?" "Fine," I said. "Just fine." I went to the back room, sat down on that thin mattress, and breathed until the shaking in my hands stopped. Then I picked up my phone and called Danny Pruitt. Danny was 29 years old. I had taken him in at 16 when he had nowhere else to go. Not my blood, no legal claim to anything I owned, but honest all the way through, and sharper than most people gave him credit for. He was a forensic accountant now at a private audit firm. He picked up on the second ring. "Danny," I said quietly, "I need your help, and I need you to keep this between us for now." There was a short pause. Then he said, "Tell me everything." Danny came down that weekend under the pretense of checking on me after the hospital. He brought a bag, stayed in the guest room, acted like a young man visiting an old friend. Melissa seemed fine with it. Clint barely acknowledged him. That was exactly what we needed. While I played the part of the tired old man recovering from a health scare, Danny got to work. He sat at the kitchen table with his laptop some evenings, told Melissa he was catching up on work emails. What he was actually doing was pulling apart every financial transaction connected to my accounts going back 2 years. What he found went further than I expected. The $24,000 withdrawal trail was clear once he mapped it. Small transfers, never more than $800 at a time, moved to a joint checking account Melissa had opened using the forged authorization. From there, the money scattered, some to Clint's credit cards, some to an account Danny traced back to a private debt collector in Cleveland. Clint's gambling debts ran over $40,000. Melissa had maxed out 3 credit cards of her own trying to cover appearances. They were not just struggling, they were completely underwater, and they had been for a long time. My savings was not extra money to them, it was their only real exit. Then Danny found something else. He pulled up my life insurance policy through the provider's online portal, using account information I gave him. The beneficiary on record had been changed. June and I had set up a small charitable fund years ago in her name, a modest thing that would go to the local library and the community garden she loved. That was supposed to receive the policy payout, it no longer did. Sometime in the past 8 months, the beneficiary had been quietly updated to Melissa Garland. I sat with that for a while when Danny showed me. It was one thing to steal from a bank account. That was greed and desperation. But going into a life insurance policy and replacing June's name with her own, that was something colder. That told me exactly how far Melissa had let herself go down this road. Danny also found an email chain on a shared family tablet I had forgotten about, one Melissa used occasionally when she visited before all this started. She had contacted a real estate agent named Bev Sutter from a Columbus brokerage. The emails went back 5 months. Melissa had described herself as managing the property on behalf of her elderly father. She had asked about current market valuations for the neighborhood and whether the lot size would be attractive to residential developers. Bev Sutter had replied with comparable sales data and suggested an in-person walkthrough to do a proper assessment. Melissa had written back saying she would be in touch once timing was right. The house I built, the house I had lived in for 41 years, being discussed with a real estate agent like it was already theirs. I played the defeated old man for 2 more weeks after that. I shuffled around on my cane. I ate the dinners Melissa made without complaint. I watched their TV in the evenings and went to bed early. I let Clint talk over me at the table and pretended not to notice. Every day he grew more comfortable. He started talking about which walls he might take down to open up the floor plan. He mentioned once that the lot would be very attractive to the right buyer. He said it casually, like I wasn't sitting 6 feet away. I heard every word, and I was recording all of it. Danny had looked up the law before we did anything. Ohio is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation agrees to the recording, it is legal. I was that person. I agreed completely. We placed a small voice recorder behind the fruit bowl on the kitchen counter and another one on the bookshelf in the living room. Neither was visible unless you were looking for it. Over the next 10 days, what those recorders picked up was more than enough. Melissa on the phone in the kitchen, talking to Bev Sutter, asking about the timeline for listing a property and whether spring was better than fall for maximizing sale price. Clint in the living room, talking to someone I didn't know, saying the old man wasn't going to be a problem much longer, that they just needed the right paperwork in place and the house would be free and clear. Melissa agreeing with him later that same evening, saying the temporary care authorization was a start, but they needed something more permanent, something that would hold up if Earl decided to get difficult. Earl deciding to get difficult. That was how she put it. I sat in the back room that night and listened to Danny play back the recordings on his laptop with the volume low. When it was done, I didn't say anything for a while. Danny didn't either. There was nothing much to say. The recordings said it clearly enough on their own. Then I told Danny it was time to set the trap. I went to Melissa the next morning over coffee and I told her I had been thinking it over. I said the stress of fighting everything was wearing me out. I said maybe she was right that I couldn't manage the house the way I used to. I watched her face carefully as I said it. She kept her expression steady, but I saw the shift in her eyes, the relief she was trying not to show. I told her if she wanted to have someone come take a look at the property, just to understand what it was worth, I was open to that conversation. I said I just wanted to know we were making informed decisions. She said she thought that was very mature of me. 3 days later, Bev Sutter pulled into my driveway. I let the walkthrough happen without interference. I sat in the back room with the door partly open and listened to Bev Sutter move through the house with Melissa, room by room. Melissa answered every question. She talked about the lot size, the roof age, the basement square footage. She pointed out the custom cabinetry in the kitchen, the work I had done with my own hands over 4 decades, and described it as a selling feature. At the kitchen table, Bev set out a standard intake form. Melissa picked up the pen and signed her name in the space marked Authorized Property Representative without a moment of hesitation. Danny was parked one house down. He had a clear line of sight to the kitchen window. He photographed the signed form through the glass before Bev Sutter even had time to cap her pen. That was the last piece we needed. I called Nolan Hurst the next morning. Nolan was a civil attorney, an old friend of June's brother, the kind of man who listened to everything before he said a word and never wasted one when he did speak. I drove to his office and laid out the full picture, the forged bank authorization with the wrong middle initial, the $24,000 drained over 16 months. The life insurance beneficiary changed without my knowledge, the recorded conversations, the email chain with the real estate agent, and the intake form Melissa had signed listing herself as authorized property representative for a house that was entirely and legally mine. Nolan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Earl, you've got them completely. Gorgery, elder financial fraud, unauthorized asset transfer. Any one of these alone is serious. Together, they're looking at felony exposure." I told him I didn't want to send my daughter to prison. I told him I wanted my house back, my money back, and my life back. Everything else I was willing to set aside. He said we could structure a private settlement. Full restitution of the $24,000 with interest. Immediate reversal of the life insurance beneficiary change. A signed confession to be held in escrow, only filed with the court if they violated any term of the agreement, and 48 hours to vacate the property entirely. The alternative, he said, was criminal prosecution. Their choice, Nolan and Danny came to the house together that Friday evening. Melissa and Clint were on the couch watching TV. Clint had his feet up on the coffee table I had built from reclaimed oak the year Melissa was born. When Nolan set his folder on that table, Clint sat up straight. Nolan introduced himself and explained the purpose of the visit in plain, level terms. Then he opened the folder and placed the documents in a row. The bank statements, the forged authorization form, the insurance policy change, the real estate intake form with Melissa's signature, the transcripts of the recorded conversations. Then he pressed play on a small recorder. Client's voice filled the room. "Once he's in a facility, we move on the house. Location alone is worth $300,000 easy." Nobody spoke for a moment. The only sound was the TV, which Melissa reached over and switched off. Clint found his voice first. He said the recording was illegal. Danny told him calmly that Ohio requires only one-party consent. I consented. Clint looked at me then, and his expression went through several things before settling into something cold and flat. "You set this up," he said. I didn't answer him. I looked at Melissa. She was already crying, her hands pressed together in her lap like she was trying to hold herself still. "Dad," she said, "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to go this far." I looked at her for a long moment, the little girl I had raised alone, the one I had worked double shifts for, the one I had walked to school and stayed up late with when she was sick and believed in without reservation for 38 years. "You changed your mother's name off that insurance policy," I said. "You had a real estate agent walk through this house and talked about it like it was already yours. You moved her rocking chair out of this room." I stopped. "You knew exactly how far this was going, Melissa." She broke down completely. Clint sat beside her stone-faced, already calculating. Nolan laid out the terms one final time and gave them until Sunday morning. Melissa signed first, her hand shaking so badly the signature barely looked like her name. Clint signed after, hard and fast, like he was angry at the paper. They were gone before noon on Sunday. I stood on the front porch and watched them load the car. Melissa stopped at the bottom of the steps and looked up at me. She said she was still my daughter. I told her she was right, and that was exactly why it hurt the way it did. Clint put his hand on her arm and pulled her toward the car. Neither of them looked back when they drove away. I walked back inside and stood in the hallway for a while. The house was quiet, but it wasn't the heavy quiet I had lived with since June passed. It was something else. It felt like the walls recognized me again. That night, Danny helped me bring June's china cabinet back up from the basement. We hung the family photos in the hallway, every one of them, in the same order they had always been. I put her reading glasses back on the nightstand. I stood in our bedroom in the dark, and I was still for a long time. "We kept it June," I said. "We kept our home." Danny moved into the guest room 2 months later. He took a position at the county prosecutor's office working elder financial fraud cases. Every morning we sit on the front porch with our coffee and watch the sun come up over the garden June planted one summer when we were young and thought we had all the time in the world. Those roses still bloom every spring without anyone asking them to. It is the best part of the day. The restitution payments from Melissa come in automatically every month. Small amounts, but steady. I heard through a mutual friend that she and Clint separated sometime last spring. Part of me carries the weight of that. But I don't regret a single step I took to get here. If you've ever given someone everything you had and watched them decide it still wasn't enough to deserve your loyalty, Then you already know what I felt standing in that back room the first night. You know that particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with your body? The question isn't whether you survive it. The question is whether you let it make you passive or whether you get quiet, get patient, and get to work. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It waits until the moment is right, and then it moves with everything it has. Protect what you've built. Protect the people and the places that hold your history. Don't wait until someone is already at the door before you understand what's worth defending. My name is Earl Dunbar. I'm 67 years old, and every room in this house is still mine. What would you have done? Leave a comment below and let me know. And if this story meant something to you, hit subscribe. There are more stories coming every single week.